Hi, I'm Stefan, the BMW DIY guy, and I want to show you the brand new M240 xDrive from BMW. Alright y'all, I'm really excited to be able to get hands-on with the brand new G42, or the M40 xDrive in this case. What a cool car, what a great iteration from the F22, and I want to take you through all of the changes, all of the updates, the new technology, even some of the neat little things that they've added to the car, and how they've improved upon the excellent F22 to make it the latest generation G22. Let's find out if this is a worthy successor to what really was a fantastic car. All right, y'all, I want to give you a full walk around on the car, but let's start with the heart of this new M240. And that's going to be your B58 motor here. So when you look at the difference, this being the second generation of this 2 Series, you're looking at 382 horsepower, which is a 47 horsepower jump over the previous F22 M240. So even though the names are the same with the M240, this is a higher performance motor. Now, same thing when you look at torque, you're looking at 369 foot-pounds of torque, which is 1 pound more than the F22. So quite a bit of a change. Let's go ahead and lift the cover here just for a second. Take a look at the differences and how they're really packing in the technology here. So you can see it's an inline 6. Looks really, really good. And I tell you, for the B58 crowd, one of the biggest advantages, you know, if you're gonna mod it, that's your fuel pump right back there, which is so much easier to get to now than previous generations. So I know for most folks, especially if you're looking at a new car, you're not looking at a change like that, but I just had to point it out. That is so much easier. Now, the other thing, if you're not familiar with this B58 motor, the things you can do with this motor is really incredible. It's now across multiple lines, even including the brand new Supra. So when you look at it, this is such a potent motor that has so much headroom, so much performance, and really is a fantastic power plant for a car that really is this light. All right, so let's go ahead and take a look at the rest. Let's do a walk around, look at the exterior, suspension, wheels, brakes, you name it. All right, y'all, so one of the very first things you're gonna notice looking at this is the change in the front fascia and the front bumper. It's quite a bit more aggressive now with this very large open venting at the bottom, and you can see all the way through into some of your lower coolers. Looks really good, looks aggressive, and is very similar as you look through the models. Like, for example, the new X3M has that same big aggressive venting, so you can see the language, kind of that design language as you move through the models. Now, even if you look at the headlight itself, you see design changes, and even the plastic has some cool designs as you go back through the halo through these adaptive LEDs. And if you haven't had adaptive LEDs before, you're going to be amazed at the difference that these can make. Now, as we do the walk around, you can see the two-tone on the mirrors as well. And this car actually has the sunroof too, and we'll show that once we get to the interior. Now, we look at our brakes and suspension. It's hard to show the suspension, but you get the adaptive M suspension standard with this model. Now, if you'd like, you can get the M Sport suspension, which is going to give you a little bit more handling, a little bit more options. You can see your M Sport brake calipers and rotors. You're with your calipers in blue. And these are the 225/40/19 wheels as we look at this, wheels and tires. But you also can get 225/40 fronts and 255/35 rears if you want a little bit more of an aggressive setup. Good options. Now, as we move around and look at the tail, also quite a bit of difference from the original 2 Series, that first generation. And again, you're going to see that change in the design. When you look at the tail lights, you can see that very similar design as we look around, where you're starting to get that big scallop that goes through the lights depending on which model and which design. In this, it comes up and over and down. And in some ways, it ties into the reflector down underneath. You can see the exhaust looks very muscular for this design. It almost gives you a hint of a quad exhaust with those little dips in the covers right there. So where very typically the M's, the dedicated M's have a quad exhaust. It gives you a little bit of hint of that as you look around. Now, the other thing I really get a kick out of, and maybe this is a small thing, but it's actually a bit of a design throwback on the door handles. Notice the lift lever door handles, not the typical loop grab in and pull. Now, I've owned an E30, E36, E46, all of those same sort of design door handles. It's actually kind of cool to see a return to that same design. Plus, it also makes the doors a little bit more flush without the door handles sticking out. All right, so let's jump in. Let's take a look at the interior and all the options there. All right, y'all, so forgive any sun and shadow here on this gorgeous day. So brand new car, hasn't taken delivery yet, so still has all of the plastics on it, so forgive that. But you can see the new textures on the door, including the new light panels, which I think are really cool. And I love the fact you have so many choices in interior light display now. So if you go through and we look at our displays as usual, we've got plastic on them, so they're a little bit more reflective than they would normally be. And I'll take a look at the iDrive here in just a moment. But you have all your new controls now here centrally located in this 8-speed automatic. And we talked about the adaptive suspension before. So now you have all of your drive modes, Sport, Comfort, and Eco Pro, but you also have your adaptive suspension as well, which gives you that degree of flexibility depending on the quality of your roads. So familiar iDrive controller, won't go through this in great detail. As usual, your wireless charging pad, which I know I really love, so I always point that out. Now, you've got your touchscreen display. Some of this I won't be able to show today because, as always, I can't show you the radio functions or my video gets taken down. But all of your typical media functions that you'd have, Sirius XM, FM, AM, Spotify, CarPlay, Android Auto, all those different options. Your new navigation is really quite nice in this iDrive 7, so you get all of that 3D display that you can zoom in and zoom out of, all of those details and all over-the-air updates, which is really cool. Including, I mean, if you just look at some of the things like you can see with the stadiums here right next door, you can see them in 3 dimension. So I really do love the new iDrive 7. It's really good on this new touchscreen that wraps around into your fully digital display as well. Now, as always, ignore the big orange stripe right here through the middle because that's our protective plastic. But I love how manipulable you can change this top screen. So let me shut the door here so it'll stop complaining about that. So even as we start the car up, you'll see you get quite a bit of information through the center depending on what you're looking for. You have your navigation. And as you change through your modes as well, you're going to see your drive modes change. So that's Sport, Comfort, Eco Pro, to show you actually what modes you're in as you go through the whole 9 yards. And with this new modern BMW, a new style of BMW steering wheel, this also has heated steering, which is really quite nice. So very, very comfortable, very familiar car. I really like the way this feels. Let's go out and let's take it for a drive. All right, you guys, so let's go ahead and take this car out. I'm really excited to get a chance to drive this. You know, this B58 motor in a frame that is this light really should be a lot of fun to drive. So I just want to take you out on what is kind of a typical test drive loop. You know, being that this is a car straight from BMW Seattle, I'm always going to drive it super respectfully. I mean, this is like a test drive. It's also well under the break-in period as well. So it's one of those things where I would love to take this out to the track and really get some time in on it, but I just want to give you a sense of what it's going to sound like, what it's going to drive, if you get a chance to take it out for a test drive yourself. So to kind of take it out for what is my typical loop, the other thing I also wanted to mention is I really love the heads-up display, and you know, my F87 M2, that it's the one thing I miss. I really do miss my heads-up display, so it's great to see in this car. So let's go ahead and take this out for a loop and get a sense of what it's like to drive it. Kind of my first favorite on-ramp here, kind of sweeping up onto I-90. We're in comfort mode right now. Still sounds really good, shifts incredibly smoothly, just absolutely like butter. So I'm really going to expect a lot out of this B58 motor in this frame, and I imagine it's going to be really, really good. So let's get up on the freeway and get a sense of what that feels like in sport mode. Right, so here we are, right into traffic. All right, so let's see if we can get out of this traffic here a little bit. We are in sport mode right now. What we heard just there for a second sounded pretty darn good, but we'll see if we can get away from this traffic, which is really kind of too bad right at the moment. But let's see what we can do. All right. Now my hope is we don't have a lot of traffic today. We very well may. But you know, I wanted to take advantage of the sun for you guys today, so we can open it up here a little bit, get a sense of what it sounds like. You know, really good exhaust note. I like that. It has a kind of a medium tone on the exhaust note. And we'll get out to the bridge, open it up a little bit, give you the sights and sounds of Seattle. Adjustable seats. You know, a couple of those sweeping turns, I tightened up the bolsters really, really nicely to hang on to me a little bit better. So I really do love the sports seats from BMW. They do a fantastic job of hanging on to you and are so customizable for how you would like to configure them. So it does a really good job, and they're hanging on to me much better now. So we're in sport mode. One of my biggest judges of the suspension, even with the adaptive suspension, is how it goes and how it deals with rough roads, and especially some of these expansion joints over this bridge. Is how well it kind of absorbs that shock without it being too rough. Like this one right here, really not too bad. You can feel the bump. It's really not that bad at all. So a little bit more traffic today than I would have liked, but kind of give you a sense of what it's like to drive this. The controls are really good. Now again, I'm coming out of my M2, right? So I'm familiar to the size of this, the kind of the frame of the car, and it already feels pretty familiar. Controls are logical and laid out well, and it just feels familiar. I don't feel really kind of out of place with the size of the car, and it controls really, really well. So let me take it a little bit further. We'll also get to my favorite on-ramp coming back down, and hopefully we'll get a sense of what the exhaust sounds like a little bit, and what it'd be like to drive this yourself. This new digital dash, you know, it's been out in a number of models now. So this iDrive 7 with both of these displays, I mean, we've seen in the X3 and the 5 Series and all of the others of the same generation, the same G generation, right? But it really is nice. So you've got that combination of the heads-up display where I can see my information of speed and any other information that you want to customize and put up in your heads-up. But then as I just glance down to my center gauges, I have all of my information, speed, my tachometer, everything else laid out logically with the navigation through the center. So it really is an excellent design. The other thing I really like is the steering wheel. So, you know, very often, as you know, if you drive an M car, you know, you get used to a certain little bit thicker steering wheel. The thumb hooks, those bumps where your thumbs go, are a little bit bigger. And this really is an excellent steering wheel. It has a good grip on it. The thumb hooks are exactly in the right place, and I find it very easy to drive. So let's come out of here, take my favorite on-ramp, and head back towards the dealership. Maybe we'll get a little bit exhaust note, I hope, as we do that. Behind us. Kind of let these guys go. Drift, 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 drift. All right, here we go. Yeah, really solid. And with these new G models, my seatbelt cinched down on me. So really good. That was quick. Came down the ramp very, very quick. I think that sounded excellent, and this new automatic transmission shifts just absolutely flawlessly, super smooth. It's hard to criticize, if at all. And you know how much I love my manual transmissions, but that was really, really nice. So get up and go was great. Let's go back and take out a little bit more of Seattle as we go back across the bridge. One of the things I really love about these new G models are really all the safety systems in here as well. The car does a great job, you know, lane keeping and all of the other technology in here, and really is comfortable. And I tell you, I bet these are going to be really popular, these new G42s, because this B58 motor is really, really good. You have all the latest technology in this a little bit smaller two-door. I can see this being incredibly popular, and I'm really impressed. This motor is excellent, and this really is a worthy successor from the F22s, right? And the N55 motor, which was great, but the B58 is just that much better. And if you're an enthusiast, you know all the things you can do with the B58 and how much capability it has, I could see this being incredibly popular. Though if I was going to buy one, I'd probably do the option of a little bit wider rear tires, because I suspect you're probably going to need them. So what a great car. Let's show you a little bit more. We roll back past the stadiums to go back to the dealership. All right, y'all, so back here at the dealership, and the drive is never long enough, right? I always want to, you know, find a, you know, bigger curve and a long straightaway and do all those sort of things. But keep in mind, this is a test drive of taking out a brand new car that's not even broken in yet. I'm always going to drive them respectfully, especially when there's been now a couple of times where, so, you know, the future owner of the car I've driven and demoed has sent me a message. So I always want to make sure to drive them extremely respectfully, but this is going to be a blast. So in the last little stretch, I was telling you about that little bit rougher road, handled it really, really well. And even running the transmission up into Sport Plus, the one thing I kind of appreciate, you know, with a manual transmission where you downshift and you get that rev match and it kind of shifts up. So as you shift down through the gears, it up revs a little bit, sounds a little bit more aggressive. In Sport Plus, the automatic does that. It sounds really good. So the exhaust is right on note. So when you want a more sporty car to sound good, this does. It shifts really well. Power to weight ratio is really, really great. And I can see these being incredibly popular. So, hey, thank you so much to BMW Seattle for giving me this opportunity to get in the car and give you a chance to see it as well. I highly, highly recommend you get a chance to come and check one of these out, drive it yourself, see what it's going to be like, and see all of the other technology and things that we just don't have time to cover. So, hey, thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it. Please click subscribe and the little alarm bell. It makes a huge difference to my channel. And I look forward to seeing you on my next video.